Let's look at the question number 31. So, in this interview question, the interviewer is trying to understand, do you know about the configuration things of Exchange Online? So, the question is, a particular company wants to enable automatic email forwarding. So, that means they want to forward the email they receive in the mailbox to somebody else or something else for a certain users, but block it for external recipients because they are facing some security concerns. So you just need to showcase the ability. You don't have to actually walk them through the steps, but you just need to tell them, hey, is it possible or not? If it is possible, what are the ways they can achieve it? So let me help you understand how we can answer that question. All right, so these are the steps which I mentioned here is the how you can do it. It's like first you have to go to the Exchange Admin Center. First and foremost, you need to know that there is an Exchange Admin Center. I have shown you a couple of times so far the Microsoft 365 Admin Center where you can manage the user, the domain, the groups, and other uh, super high level settings in the tenant. There are different admin centers available for Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, your Azure, there's an Azure portal, etc. So you need to first of all know there is an Exchange Admin Center available. So you tell that, hey, you can do that in the Exchange Admin Center. And if they ask further question on how to do it, you can tell that, hey, there is something called mail flow. Within mail flow, you can create a rule and you can set a particular action and you just save it. And based on the rule what you have defined, this is gonna particularly adhere to the rule what you set. So that's how you answer it. For you to understand it better, let me quickly show you how it is been done. So I logged into the admin center. Let me quickly enlarge it. So this is the admin center where you can actually come and do a lot of tasks. I talked about different admin centers available. So if you don't know a particular portal name, how to reach there, so you can reach to the admin center by going into admin.microsoft.com. So that's how you come to the Microsoft 365 admin center. Here, if you scroll down, there are other admin centers available that take you to the corresponding center, which you can configure a specific part of what you're looking at. So here we have security, compliance, Intune, identity, exchange, SharePoint, Teams, and blah blah blah. And you can see all of that in a different view as well. Click on all admin center. This takes you to this particular page and it tells you on a high level what you can do. You can see that there is an Exchange Admin Center. So here you can do manage advanced email settings such as quarantine, encryption, mail flows, etc. So what we are going to do is the look at the mail flow rules. So click on this link, or on the left hand side you can click on this link as well. Let's take you to the Exchange Admin Center. I don't want to spend a lot of time here explaining about all the things you can do or cannot do. We're just going to stick to the question. The question is about how you want to enable the automatic email forwarding for specific users. Where can you set that? You can, on the left hand side, you can see there is a mail flow option. Under mail flow, there is something called rules, and here you can come and click on create a new rule. So click on add a rule. You can pick a choice from here, like what you're trying to do. Or you can go ahead and create a new rule. So give a name. In our case, we are trying to create a rule um, which says that if you want to block somebody, you can say that who is the recipient, is it the center? So you can say that, okay, if the recipient, select what are the action. If they are external or internal, you can say that they are outside the organization. Then do what do you want to do? So do you want to redirect? Do you want to block the message? Do you want to forward the email to somewhere else? You can say that, hey, block this message. Or if you want to add any exception, you can accept that if the sender is someone else, the domain is part of your own domain, then don't save it, exempt it, things like that. So you can do a lot of customization here. So that is what that question was asking. Like, hey, how can you enable this automatic email forwarding? And if you want to block anybody, how can you do that? So now you have learned how to do that. So frame your answer according to that. Don't just give them step by step guidance. That is not something they are looking at when they interview, basically to understand where to do it, how to do it, what are the options available, etc. Let's look at question number 32. Again, we are trying to do a deduction here. So we are trying to understand which is not a feature of Exchange Online. Exchange Online is part of the Microsoft 365 suite. So I'm sure you know that by now. All right, so let's look at the first option. Does Exchange Online provide focused inbox for intelligent email sorting? Yes, it does. Focused inbox is something you can configure where the Exchange Online will sort the high priority or like the focused information, the people who interact with you most, your customer emails at the focus inbox, and then on the other inbox it will keep the junk related email or like advertisement or something which you are bcc into, or like another type of conversation which is not super relevant. So that is what focus inbox, so that is part of the Exchange Online. The second is integration with Teams for shared calendaring. Yes, so when you go to your Exchange Online or Teams, there is an integration between Teams and Outlook or Exchange Online. So all the meetings, what you see over there, you can see it in the Teams calendar as well. And additionally, on top of it, when you try to create a meeting, because it has the integration available, you will be automatically able to add in the necessary link or the bridge link to join the Teams call within the Outlook calendar itself. Or you can do it in the Teams calendar as well. So you have that automatic integration between these two. The third is AI writing assistant for composing email. So this is right and wrong because by default this built-in AI writing assistant is not available in Exchange Online. But if you purchase Copilot license, then Copilot will add in certain functionality on top of Outlook or on top of your Exchange Online, wherein you would be able to take help of AI writing assistant to compose email, draft new content, things like that. So for in this question, I'm saying that this is wrong, but in a very broader generic conversation, yes, but you have to tell that, hey, that's a Copilot functionality. You can add Copilot to make that happen. The last question is message encryption for secure email communication. Yes, while sending the email, or you can set certain parameters or security measures in place, which will automatically encrypt certain email, encryption at rest, encryption in transit, things like that. So the correct answer for this question, which is the wrong answer, which is doesn't it's not a feature of Exchange Online, is the built-in AI writing assistant. Let's look at question number 33. So how does Exchange Online protect against phishing and spam emails? So here the interviewer is trying to understand your knowledge in terms of, are you aware of the security features of Exchange Online overall, and using that, is it possible to prevent against these sort of attacks like phishing or spam emails, things like that. So basically you need to have a good understanding about the email filtering or the security measures which is available within Exchange Online. So how do you answer that question? Let me populate the answer first. First, you can tell that, hey, there is something called Exchange Online Protection available, or EOP. Using that, you can block spam, malware, phishing attempts, etc. So this internally, this uses the AI and threat intelligence to filter any sort of malicious emails. So that's how you answer that. Second, you can tell that, hey, there are safe links and safe attachment. So what it does is it is actually going to scan through your email content for any fishy URLs or malicious URL or malicious email attachment in real time for threat. So it doesn't it prevents the user from clicking on it. If or even if the user clicks on it, it gives a warning to the user stating that, hey, we identify there is a malicious content in it. Do you want to open it, or do you want to open it in a safe space, things like that. That is available. The another option is anti-phishing policies. So you remember I took you to the Exchange Admin Center. So the places like that, you can go in and you can configure these policies to protect users by detecting these spoofed sender addresses, and somebody's trying to impersonate someone and trying to get into mailboxes. So these policies can be created to actually prevent that from happening. On top of it, every user will get a report now or phishing email notification. So when you do get emails like that, you would be able to like click on it to notify the user to prevent that as well. The next is quarantine and reporting. Using this, you can identify suspicious emails which are held in the quarantine for admin to review, or you could look into users who receive these alerts for any sort of possible emails, phishing emails, things like that. So there is mechanism available to either quarantine or you can create alerts to report it. Finally, you can set up multi-factor authentication. So that's another great way to actually prevent any sort of unauthorized access to the email account. So I know that that is not directly related to this online uh, phishing or spam emails, but multi-factor authentication is again a great mechanism. You can put it in place to any tool so that that is being taking care of any sort of malicious login in attempts to any services. So that's how you answer it, like incorporate all of these components, especially at the first 4 points, to tell that, hey, these are the main things available and what it kind of does. Let's look at question number 34. Here the question is, a particular user is complaining about that their calendar events are not synchronizing properly across devices. So that means they are using multiple devices, and they have some syncing issue with their emails and the calendar, or they just mentioned about the calendar. So what are the troubleshooting steps would you take? So if you are someone who haven't worked on this, then it is quite difficult for you to understand or like explain it, but let me see if I can paint the picture. First and foremost, this is how you answer this question. So first and foremost, if somebody is having any sync issue, make sure to ask them, or like you check their connectivity. Like that's the first and foremost thing. Change into a different Wi-Fi, change it into a different data, or like if they use VPN, make sure you turn off the VPN, turn on again. All sort of that connectivity troubleshooting. Second is verify the synchronization issue. So how do you make sure that? So you can go into OVA. So OVA is Outlook Web Access. So when you log into the online version of the Outlook, you can see that, hey, can you see the calendar there? Just like the installed Outlook. And you can make sure that, hey, that is something else it is working on. So it is synchronizing, but it is not syncing to the mobile devices. The third is you can clear any sort of cache. So when you go into the Outlook client, you can go to your file and account settings. There is a data files available. There is an option to clear any sort of offline items. So that when you clear that, that allows more items to flow in and things like that. Additional point is you can use Outlook in safe mode. So safe mode is like if you have any add-in issues or conflict, you can launch Outlook by going into outlook.exe/safe in the run command. And when you run it, it opens in the safe mode. So that's how you do it. Finally, you can re-add the calendar. So re-adding is like removing the calendar and re-adding it again. We'll make sure that if you're using any shared calendar, remove and re-add it. Sometimes that will fix the issue. For mobile devices, especially for phone users, if synchronization persists, remove and re-add the Microsoft account on your mobile device. So that's another troubleshooting step you can use. So there is not one troubleshooting mechanism, but if you tell like one or two or three examples in from this whole list, if you ask this question, that would be enough to showcase your knowledge in terms of, hey, you know about this particular aspect and how to deal with it. So that's how you answer it. The next question is about checking your understanding about archiving. So it is asking, hey, what is Exchange Online archiving and how does it help organization manage the email storage? So basically, you need to talk about what is this archiving about and how is it going to help an organization achieve something. So let me populate the pointers and then let me help you understand how to answer this. First and foremost, you need to tell that, hey, Exchange Online provide unlimited archive storage for users who are in the E3 and E5 plan. So that is you showing that, hey, what are the archival options available between these licensing plan, and showcasing that if anybody is part of E3 or E5, they get unlimited archive storage. So there is no reason why somebody should not archive the old emails. And you can use auto expanding archives for older emails to free up the primary mailbox storage. So if somebody's got so much email in the primary mailbox and they're looking at a mechanism where they want to change, push that to an archive storage, you can do that by automatically. Second, it support retention policies. So retention policies allows administrators to define rules to automatically archive emails based on their age or content. So administrators in an organization can create these policies to say that, hey, archive emails which is older than 6 months, and set that policy in an organizational level. So any emails which is older than 6 months will be automatically going into the archival folder. So that is something you can define. Or you can set another condition. Hey, any content from this particular mailbox or this topic, automatically archive. Another point is um, it ensures compliance and e-discovery. So this helps businesses retain emails for legal compliance and audit purposes. When you archive these emails, you're not getting rid of it. So in the future, if you want to retrieve certain conversation on emails, you can run these e-discovery policies or other compliance related report to fetch these report for compliance purposes. The last point you can touch is when you do these archival, it reduces the mailbox size issues, like because you're manually or automatically moving the older emails to an archive mailbox. So that is like preventing Outlook from slowing down in the future because of lackage of storage space in the primary mailbox. So that's how you answer this. Add all the flavor of everything what I mentioned here. It's not a one word or a one sentence answer. Yes, it is capable to do online archiving, but tell that it's a free for E3 and E5 unlimited storage, and talk about retention and how compliance help and how it is going to resolve the problem with performance issues, things like that. All right, in the next section, we are going to learn about SharePoint Online. We talked about what is Exchange Online. SharePoint Online is the document or artifact repository for an organization. So this is where you can create team site or communication site to hold all the documents relevant for a team or a project or for communication. All of that can be kept in this place. Let's look at question number 36, the first question in the SharePoint Online section. The question is, a marketing team wants to share a campaign document. So that could be a keyword. They want to share some documents externally with partners. So that's another keyword. So they want to share, and that too, they want to share externally while ensuring sensitive information remain protected. So they want to keep the data protected. At the same time, they want to share some data to an external party. So what are the options available in SharePoint Online? That's a good question, actually. So it has so many content. One, you need to know about what is SharePoint and how SharePoint is useful for an organization, so you need to explain that. Second, can somebody share any data or anything externally, so you need to know about that fact. And the third part of this question is, while doing that, how can you make sure that everything is protected? So if someone asks you this sort of a question, they are looking for a multi-fold answer, not like a yes or no or a one statement. You need to factor in a lot of aspect to it. So let me show you how you can answer this sort of question. One, you just need to tell that, hey, it's possible to share external data. You tell a bit about SharePoint and things like that. You can tell that, hey, you can use SharePoint's external sharing settings to configure who is allowed and who is the external user and things like that. And by using that, you can actually define the permission. In the admin center, you can have your own control as well, policy sharing, or as a user also, you can define who you can share that with. So let me see if I can quickly show you that. So I'm in the demo tenants. Let's go to admin center. Here, just like any other admin center, if you come to the Microsoft admin center, on the left hand side, you will be able to find the SharePoint admin center as well. Here as a company, you can define the sharing and access control. On the left hand side under policies, you can see that there is a sharing button. When you go there, you can see that what are the sharing permissions you are allowing within your organization, especially for external sharing settings. So you can dial in and dial out the least permissive or most permissive, um, that is applicable to SharePoint or OneDrive, or it can be for one as well. So you can change or play around with this equalizer. So that is one way. Second, for more for external sharing, if you want to limit external sharing or for a particular domain or for all domains in your organization, you can do that. Or you want to enable external sharing only to the marketing team. So in the question, their marketing team, they want to share. So if you generally have a setting within your organization not to allow sharing for anybody except the marketing team, you can set that. So there are a lot of things as a user you can do that. The next I want to show you is from a user point of view. So let's go to a SharePoint. This is how a SharePoint in an organization look like. When you log into your SharePoint, you can see different sites for your organization. So if you go to a particular site, you can see that, hey, there are so many documents. What is this site about? You can click on the documentation link to see all these documents in a listed format. So if I want to share any document, I can click on this share button. This allow me to put in the email address on who I can share. Because my organization allowed me to share externally, I would be able to put an email address to share it to external email as well. So you can see that, hey, this particular email is an external. Do you want to continue? I say yes. And then I can define what sort of a permission. When I share it, can they edit it, review it, or view it, or they can do everything, but they can't download it. So things like that. And either I can come in here and define when is the expiry for my sharing and all sort of things, or I can copy the link and share it with someone, or I can put the email address and click on send button as well. So this is how the external sharing work from an user point of view and from an admin point of view as well. So I showed you the admin experience and I showed you the user experience. So first of all, the admin need to enable that to even work. So that's how you answer that in the first point. Second is you can limit access via permission. So kind of I showed you when you try to share it, you can set the permission like view only or edit rights. So that defines what sort of a control the recipient have when they receive that link or attachment. The third is you can enable data loss prevention. So these policies prevent any sort of unauthorized downloads or sharing of any confidential data. That is another settings you can do within an organizational level. Let's look at question 37. This is a deduction question. So in this question, we are trying to find which of the following statement about SharePoint Online document versioning is false. So first of all, you need to understand the SharePoint Online document versioning. Document version is nothing but like when you make changes to the document, it keeps the previous version intact so that you can go and review it and identify the previous records, or you can restore the previous version. So let's look at these option one by one. First option is SharePoint tracks changes made to file and allows version for restoration 100%. That's the whole point of version control. So anytime when you make changes to a particular file, SharePoint keeps that version so that you can actually, as an owner, go and restore to the previous known version, or you can track changes, things like that. Second topic is versioning is enabled by default on all document libraries 100%. So this is a settings which you as a user don't have to go and enable. By default, this is enabled so you can just start working on the document. All the changes to the document will be saved on the version control. Third is users can limit the number of versions stored to save space. Yes, users have an ability to actually make the changes so that you can save space as well. The last one is version history only applies to Microsoft Office files, which is wrong. So this is applied to other types of file as well. So let me show you the document which related to that. So in this particular article which talks about all the types of versions you can do, you can say that you can view version history, restore previous version, delete version, unpublished version, things like that. And this document talks about all the other types of files, not only the Microsoft file, which you can use for version control and things like that. So if you are interested to read more about it, please click on the link to understand more about it. Let's look at question 38. This is looking at how does Microsoft OneDrive for Business relate to SharePoint Online. So this is a comparison. So I'm sure these sort of question you can expect on any sort of general interview, because this is trying to understand, do you know about what is Microsoft OneDrive for Business? Do you know about SharePoint Online, and how does it different to each other? So let me first populate the answer and then help you understand that. First and foremost, you need to tell that, hey, OneDrive for Business is built on SharePoint Online. Even if you don't tell the fact that OneDrive for Business is a personal cloud storage, and SharePoint is for organizational storage, repository or team storage. That is first point you need to tell, and then use this particular feature comparison list to actually highlight the differences. One, like I said, OneDrive for Business is for personal, it is individual users. The SharePoint Online is for team and organizational wide collaboration. So a team of people can come together and collaborate on a SharePoint Online site. Access, OneDrive for Business access is restricted to that particular individual. Nobody else have access to your own OneDrive for Business. SharePoint is shared across teams and departments. So anybody who is part of the team or whoever you give access to within that department have access to that whole team site. The storage location, this is stored in your local device or on your local personal OneDrive. SharePoint uses the company-wide storage quota. So personal OneDrive comes with 1 terabytes of storage space, and the SharePoint storage space can vary, depends on how much storage space your company purchases. Integration, by default, OneDrive is integrated with all the Microsoft 365 applications. So you can store files, you can create files in Microsoft application and keep it there. But additionally, SharePoint have integration with Teams and Power Automate to create different sort of flows and automation in the OneDrive. So if you want to know more about it, just go and read these documentation which is attached in the link. Let's look at question 39. In this scenario, a particular department, HR department, want to automate an employee onboarding process. We just talked about that thing in the previous question. If somebody want to automate using SharePoint Online, is it even possible, and what are the features which they can use to do it? So first and foremost, I just want to tell you that that is possible. So To paint a picture, to make it happen, first you need to store the document in a document library. So you can store your onboarding document or policy document, your training materials or employee handbook, all of that in the document library. Then you go to a solution called Power Automate Workflows. This is where you would be able to create or automatic approval requests for onboarding forms or things like that. And then you can send automatic email with the onboarding process. All of this can be done in a Power Automate workflow. SharePoint have something called SharePoint list. You can read more about it. You can use the SharePoint list to track these progress in a structured format. Let's suppose you are doing an onboarding document policy or employee handbook. If you want to track all sort of these process, you can keep that sort of a progress report in the SharePoint list so that it is already tracked. And finally, you can use Microsoft Form and Power Apps for additional interactive onboarding surveys or creating form. So the answer to the question is, of course, yes. But how do you respond to it? It matters. You can say that, hey, integration of SharePoint document libraries with the Power Automate flow or storing the information in the SharePoint list help you with that whole automation or onboarding process. And additionally, you can enhance that by providing or using Microsoft Form, which you can use it to actually create these interactive surveys using forms and things like that. That's how you stitch together a story to answer that. Let's look at the next question. Here, the interviewer is trying to understand, do you know the difference between SharePoint team site and communication site? So when you try to create a SharePoint, it creates two different sites, or at least give you the option to create two different sites. Let me first show you that. So when you go under SharePoint and go under home, if you have rights to create it, when you try to create a new site, it first basically asks you, do you want to create a team site and communication site? So here you can see the answers here. So what is the difference between these two? So that is what we are trying to learn here. So first and foremost, the main difference between the team site and communication site is team site is for collaboration within a team, and communication site is for broad audience. So if you are creating something for the whole organization, you would typically create a communication site. If you're creating something within your team for collaboration, storage of documentation for the project, things like that, you would create a team site. So let me show you additional differences that helps you answer the question in a better way. Right, the team site, like you understand, just before collaboration within a team, this is for sharing information with a broad audience. Integration, this works well with the Microsoft Teams, and this communication site can be used as a standalone, or it can be an intranet site with lots of information and collaterals and artifacts with many people within your organization, or you can make it as a home page of your organization as well, with all the bookmarks and all the important information, know-hows, things like that. Second is access. When you create a team site, you can restrict to a small subset of users. When you create a communication site, you can make it a public site. You don't even have to restrict to anybody. You can make it public, so anyone within your organization can discover it or use it, or you can make it private if you're modifying the site or things like that. The use case is very important. The team site use case is for any sort of collaboration within a team, or file sharing and document modification or collaboration, things like that. The communication site is mainly, because it is catered toward broad audience, it is used for any sort of company-wide news sharing, or you have a training repository where everybody come in and view details. That is where the company-wide communication site is being used. So I hope all these points which I mentioned just now can be used as like a good pointers to answer these sort of question between what is team site versus communication site.